Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our annual Engineering Panel Night. For those who don't know me, maybe online, my name is Professor Algara, Christopher Algara, and I'm the Department Head of Engineering here at Middlesex Community College. Before I kick off this event, let me say that it makes me very happy and excited to see a room filled with the students. This morning when I checked the registration link and I saw more than 100 people, I was like, oh wow, I just gotta make sure I have enough food for everyone. Thankfully, as you can see, that was the case. So this event was born 13 years ago, and we have hosted it ever since. Every year we do this event because not only is an event that brings the whole community together, but it also inspires and shows you that a professional career is totally possible. Even during the pandemic, when these kind of events were more needed than any other time, we pulled it through and we did it on Zoom, but we always have found a way to make this possible. Faculty, staff, and administrator come together every year to make this possible. We spend months planning and organizing the logistics to make sure that we had everything we needed for tonight. And it makes me very proud to see so many helping hands when you have a common goal in mind. This just reminds me how strong our community is. Thanks to every faculty member and administrator who made it here today. I see so many of your professors, so many staff members and deans and other workers. They just had a full day of work and here they are with us. So thank you. I want to acknowledge the Massachusetts and Northeast STEM Network for sponsoring our dinner. They were responsible for providing us with food to make sure that we are well fed. So please help yourself and make sure you eat enough. If we have leftover, please take them home. We don't want to see anything going to waste. Last but not least, I'm very proud to present our 2025 panelists, all of them with very strong and diverse backgrounds. You have no idea how happy and proud it makes us and grateful to have you here with us tonight. We're well aware that you were all working today, and the fact that you just drove here to share your stories with our students, it's something amazing. And on behalf of our entire MCC community, I want to thank you. Now I want to explain how the panel is going to go. Each one of the panelists will have the opportunity to talk to you for about 10 minutes or so. They will share their backgrounds, struggles, and successes that brought them to where they are today. After each one of them speak, then we will open the floor for questions and answers, Q&A, and then we will save maybe 10 minutes or so at the end, so that way you can come and meet the panelists personally. And we'll try very hard to get everyone out by 8 o'clock, because I know that everyone had a long day, so I want to be mindful of the time. So thank you everyone, and let's enjoy the evening.
Hi everyone, my name is Frank Pan. I work for Bosch. Before I worked for Bosch for 8 years, I came from Canada. So I worked for a Swiss company. It's called, before it was Nortec. Right now it's used the parent company name Conde for 14 years. And prior to that, I worked for 2 small high-tech companies for 3 years. So that is my recent, I would say, 25 years history. But before I moved to Canada, I worked also in a university for more than 10 years. I was a director of research group in my university for 7 years before I decided to immigrate to Canada. So my major, when I studied in university, was electrical engineering, just like some of you do. And I worked initially for high voltage, big current. High voltage could be high than 5,000 kilovolts, and low voltage could be 24, 36 safety voltage. And big current, I once, worked with a project with a steel plant. Current could be 40,000 amperages. So that is for initial my project I work with. But after I realized I'm more interested in electronic side, signal processing side. So I started some research project for the country. I got some fund grants from the national level and provincial level. So I started that research. Then I got some publications in IEEE. At that time, it was very hard for scholars or professors to publish IEEE publications when you are working in China. That is back. My first publication was really published in 1992. So paper was sent out in 1989. That was my first IEEE paper. And I had some research publications, but in parallel, I'm very interested in engineering in the real stuff, which developed many PCBs, electronics meters, controllers for industrial. That's why I had many opportunities to visit different factories, like a power generation, mainly like a substation, like the control office of the city to control utility, and also chemical, like oil refinery factories, or like steel mill factories, many others, instrumentation factories. So I had so many different opportunities to talk with those different industry sectors and management or developers. So understand their challenges and their opportunities, so we can bring some projects back to the university. We can do some development or a new design for them, or the I would say based on microcontroller based the controller to improve their auto control or more accurate control or more efficient control, such a thing. So after I developed those, I established a small company actually in 1992. So I had some startup company experience, how to start up a company and how to bring some projects from industry back to your small development team. Then we, from concept to final product, how to do prototype, how to do validation, how to test and troubleshooting. And for myself, I debugged many troubled PCB boards actually at that time, because when we established the small company, we didn't have lots of funds. So lots of things you have to do by yourself. You have to do the coding, you have to do PCB design, you have to do the tests by yourself, and work with some of our external partners. So anyway, so this all a good experience helped me when I moved to Canada, which is January 2000, 25 years ago. So when I moved to Canada, actually, I didn't realize how hard to find a decent job. Everyone told me, hey, if you do not have Canadian experience, finding a technician job is very challenging for you. That is what I heard when I moved to Canada. But I found a job in 3 months. Actually, it was a nice job. The title was, I believe, it was intermediate hardware and firmware engineer. That is my first job I got in Canada. That is a small company, about 100 people, and to make instrumentation. But right after, in 2001, I don't know how many people here remember, that was when high-tech, when internet rise dramatically. Many people switched from other majors, from physics, chemical, math to computer, because internet was so popular and lots of jobs, just lack of working force, right? So I switched to a startup company in beginning of 2001. Worked for that company for more than 2 years, less than 3 years. I got a lot of stock options at that time, because I was hired as a senior embedded engineer, and everyone say we will go public in 6 months. So then we decided to work very hard. I believe the longest day I worked probably like 15 hours a day. But in the end, I think close to the end of the 2001, NASDAQ already declined. Then high tech, like a bomb bust. Many companies went bankrupt and or shut off. So we survived, but in the end, I think the company cut jobs until 2003. We only had 8 people. But I, was fortunate to still stay with that 8 people. But after they decided to continue to before acquired by another company, they continue to cut. So now I lost my job, which is close to the end of 2003. Then after I tried to find another job, but if you know the history, back 2003 or 2004, that is the bottom of high tech. NASDAQ already hit almost bottom, like 1,010 or 1,100 points. So many companies could not provide a job. Even you cannot find an easy job to wash dishes. But I was fortunate, I found a job, I think in 4 months. So from 2004, I worked for a Swiss company, headquartered in Frankfurt campus, very close to Zurich. So from there, I started to build up my new skills in HVAC industry, because before I worked for 2 small companies, I say high-tech company, networking company. But from 2004, I worked for HVAC until now. So I have to learn some new stuff, humidification, dehumidification, and control. From hardware, firmware development to networking, like backend and Modbus, Longworks, you can name many industrial control protocols. But I think I did pretty well, and I was promoted director of my control group, I think around 2008. Then since in that position, I developed multiple projects, but one is a global project led by me. Swiss quarter gave us opportunity to lead the global project. So that project is to develop, we call it integrated controller or universal controller, which can be used for, applied to more than 8 product lines for all over the world. Not only for European market, also for North American market. So that was a very challenging project. You can imagine for North America, without touchscreen display, you need to support 4 languages. For European market, you need to support more than 14 languages. So even for that requirement, you have to do a lot. Think about it. With limited memory resource, how to use limited 3.5-inch display to display those different languages when users select different country. So that is only one requirement, but it was so successful, and in the end, the project was accepted by all sales sectors and applied to all we call a premium product lines. So they call me a father of integrated controller. This is headquarters giving me that title. But in the end, after some years, headquarters decided to move the innovation center from North America back to Switzerland. That's why that time I have to make my decision to change my job. That's why I came to Bosch. For now, I already probably spent too much time. I will stop here. But if you have more questions, you can ask after other panelists' interviews. Thank you.
career. Hello all, my name is Chitra Chaudhary and I was educated as a civil engineer. I will start where I grew up initially. So I grew up outside of Mumbai, previously known as Bombay, and in a small town. And the reason I say this is because many of these early experiences do shape how we look at life. And so one of the things that I had to do was to commute. So I commuted for almost 3 years of my high school. They used to call it junior college back then. So for my couple of years of that junior college, I used to travel and commute by train for about an hour, then walk and then go to my school. This carried on till about 3 years. After that, we did find a place living closer to the university where I was. Later on, fortunate to enter civil engineering career. Those early type of experiences did shape my worldview, and I say this because I also worked at community college for a number of years later when I moved to Massachusetts as a professor and also as a dean for almost 10 years at Mass Bay Community College, which many of you will probably know. As a young person, when I was growing up in India, I had some really great role models. So I have to say that I did not land into civil engineering just by accident. I saw all around me civil engineering because my dad was a civil engineer. He built bridges and also cities and townships outside of Mumbai. And so growing up, I was constantly in with cement and concrete around me, and I was always looking at new buildings going up and seeing how the workers went about doing that work. So that was very real and very something that was very close to me. So I had a good role model in my dad. But eventually I had to find my own path, and that does happen because ultimately your passion is what helps you discover what your strengths are, and everyone has different strengths. So I found after I graduated with my civil engineering degree, I found a job in a small company in Mumbai. And this job was, really what shaped my future career, I would say, because there I was a entry-level engineer kind of, and they were working on various damage assessment projects. So they specialized in structural damage assessment and rehabilitation of buildings. And so I was given a ultrasonic testing equipment, and I used to go around in different residential buildings and also accompany the team on various projects which were about damage assessment of buildings. And so those early experiences helped me sort of understand how civil engineering teams work, what kind of activity actually does happen, what are the actual problems, in civil engineering that people tend to solve, and obviously they affect the living conditions. So if you have a structural crack in your house, you're immediately going to see and worry about what that means for the safety of your house. And so these early experiences really helped shape my career. I wouldn't say opportunity because it came from a really difficult point in India's history, where there was a series of bomb attacks that happened in Mumbai in 1993, and because of that, a number of buildings got destroyed essentially, and some buildings they had difficulty in terms of looking at whether these buildings were worth occupying again. And so I was also part of the team that went about looking at these damaged structures. Ultimately, I mean, long story short, that got me into structural engineering. I was very much became interested in structural engineering. So I did my master's and my PhD later on at in Massachusetts. I came to United States for my PhD and got my PhD in structural engineering again, civil engineering. And incidentally, one of the reasons I received my research assistant role on a federal highway administration project as well as an NSF project was because I had worked on these damage assessment projects back in India. And previous to that, I forgot to also mention that I did work as civil structural engineer, designing buildings, designing jetties, developing rehabilitation plans for jetties around, and then also high-rise buildings as well as foundations, machine foundations. So typical things, mostly focusing on commercial buildings and structures in terms of structural design. After I moved to United States, I finished my PhD, and one of the things that I will say is that I had two choices. So at that time I had a growing family. I also incorporated a business, small business that I ran for about 4 years. I learned a lot of things in that process. One is that developing connections and developing the understanding of the needs of this community, how businesses around Massachusetts work. I got an insider's perspective on that. This company was mostly, as you were talking, it reminded me that we were trying to merge high tech and civil engineering and creating software which would be helpful for building inspection companies, which they can take and utilize in field. But along the same, at the same time, around that same time, I had also developed an interest in teaching. So I taught at Merrimack College, and for one course, I was also a TA at Tufts University. So I had my interest in various types of. I had my experiences in teaching as well, and so that one thing led to another, and I actually thought I should also, along the side, I have this small business. I was also starting to teach as an adjunct, and that's how I got into Mass Bay Community College, and then after that I became a full professor there. I was hired there as a professor. I went through all that tenure track process, and then also became a dean and managed our STEM division for about 10 years. So during that time I wrote, I helped develop teams, and my work was mostly not related directly to structural engineering, but I was helping students access different kinds of services. We developed a STEM mentor program, which was recognized by the Speaker of the House in Massachusetts, and then I am now at Wentworth Institute of Technology, which is where because as I mentioned, after spending a number of years in administration, I also felt a need to again connect with students and classroom, which has always been my interest. So I'm currently at Wentworth teaching full time, in engineering and enjoying that immensely. So I'm going to stop here. I'm sure there will be more. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have during our interactions. Thank you.
Jack. I just finished my PhD at University of Michigan and just moved back over the summer. But I wanted to start back in like high school, so I was really good at math and science, and that's how I ended up in engineering. I didn't really think too hard about exactly what I wanted to do, and I didn't know how to think about it, so I just said, oh, well, mechanical engineering is the most broad, so I'll just do mechanical engineering. Didn't really think about what that meant on the other end. So I ended up going to Merrimack College for mechanical engineering, and while I was there, one of my professors had said, hey, you should really look at like going to grad school and getting involved in a bigger institution because I think you would really enjoy it. So that's how I ended up applying to University of Michigan, and this was immediately preceding the pandemic. So I moved just before that to Michigan and was getting involved there with the auto lab, which is where they do a whole bunch of research. There's a whole bunch of different engine test cells that they have. And so I ended up working on a Ford Power Stroke diesel engine, which is essentially what would go into like an F-250 truck. And what I was working on was creating optimized engine calibrations for alternative diesel fuels, like biodiesel, renewable diesel, and a 50-50 blend of the two, to see, okay, well, these fuels aren't from a fossil source, so what happens when you use that carbon intensity benefit and also get a benefit in the engine, which is currently just optimized for a fossil fuel. So that's what my dissertation turned out to be, and typically you expect your PhD to last like 5 years. Honestly, it was 6 years. It was the hardest time in my entire life. I don't know who I would be though if I didn't go there. It was so challenging in so many different ways, and I'm happy to talk more about that after. But I ended up getting involved in the Society of Women Engineers grad student chapter, which is called Grad Suite. And I found that really beneficial. It helped me find a community which really was instrumental to actually sticking out your time in grad school. And I think that pretty much is a theme that you can find in anything, where having a community and being able to connect with people is really, really vital to your success. And so I think that's one of the most important things that I was able to do there. And while I was there, I also got involved in some of their executive board positions. So I ended up involved in the professional development group, which we ended up putting on events to kind of help students see that failure is normal and that transitioning out of an academic environment, it's weird and you don't really know what to expect because you've been in school for however much time. So I ended up getting involved with that and doing a whole bunch of different stuff with the professional development group at Grad Suite. I'm happy to talk more about that also. And while I was at Michigan, because it's got such a big name, there's also a lot of opportunities that I didn't see when I was at Merrimack. Like, they had a lot of faculty development, and like Merrimack didn't have any sort of grad school preparation and like help to get you into grad school if you wanted to go elsewhere. So I made sure to take advantage while I was at University of Michigan, because I thought I wanted to be involved in teaching in some capacity afterwards. So I'm not currently, but I'm interested in it, and so I was able to take advantage and participate in a lot of the different programs that they participate in or advocate for to help you become a better professor and to teach effectively to students. So that was one of the big things that I did throughout my time at Michigan. And I ended up finishing my PhD, and when I graduated, I was having a really hard time finding a job, but I had been involved in the alternative fuels industry throughout grad school. So there was a number of different events during grad school where I was able to interact with a group called Clean Fuels Alliance America. They're the trade association for alternative fuels, namely biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel. And so while I was there, they were sponsoring some of my work, which means that essentially they contributed some of the money to help ensure that I could get my work done and that anything that broke, that they could help pay for. So I was kind of involved there and ended up interacting with the Michigan Soybean Committee, which you wouldn't think that that's a group, but it is. And so I ended up getting involved in a whole bunch of that stuff, which ultimately led to me networking and ending up in my current position where I work as a consultant with Mark IV Consulting, where I have a really lengthy title. I am the diesel engine and low carbon fuels integration specialist, which is really just an attempt to include all of my expertise in one title, which is really difficult, and doesn't even include all of the stuff that I've been involved in. And so that's currently what I do, but Mark IV and Clean Fuels Alliance America, there's a relationship there where Mark IV does a lot of the economic and technical support for the programs that Clean Fuels Alliance America puts on. And so I've been getting involved in work in various industries that might be able to utilize biodiesel fuel. So because it's a trade association, it has members that range from farmers that are growing soybeans all the way through the people who are trying to utilize it on the other end in HVAC, in bioheat, heating oil, in the transportation sector, like the engine manufacturers, Ford, Cummins, etc. So I've been getting involved in a whole bunch of that stuff. I forgot to mention also while I was at Michigan, I had an internship with Ford, which was the hardest thing in my entire life. I essentially was a diesel calibrator, but I was a PhD student, so I was an extremely underpaid diesel engine calibrator. So yeah, I can talk more about all of that. My experience, all of my degrees were in mechanical engineering, so that's kind of where I've ended up. But while I was at Michigan, I took a lot of classes in the civil and environmental engineering departments, and then the School of Environment and Sustainability, because I also had interest there as like the bigger picture, well, why does this actually matter? And I think that that's really important for people, and engineers especially tend to lack the communication part of that, and so I think that's really important. Happy to talk more about that, but I don't want to continue talking, so I'll pass it along.
Good evening, Middlesex. Good evening, Middlesex. Marco, stop texting.
I've already got questions.
He was my student. I'm Nicoletta Fattorini. At school, I'm going by Cozy. They blow my mind with these stories, and now I really don't know what to say anymore. But I'm going to give you a little bit about something about myself. I'm originally from Romania. I was born in Transylvania, actually, not far away from Dracula Castle. Now the Halloween is coming. I was very, how can I say? My parents wanted me to play with dolls. My parents wanted me to be like my sisters, play music, dance. Nope. I was breaking everything. And I was playing with my brother. So I was very much on technical side. I got my degree, I'm an electrical engineering background as a undergrad school, and during my undergrad, I went and I worked for a French company in Romania in the morning, building, actually in the night, in the second shift. I've been doing second shift for 30 plus years. I was working on a manufacturing floor, building prototypes, learning actually pretty much to build stuff. And in the morning I was going to school. This is how I did for 4 years, and I loved it. It was kind of crazy, and this is what I told to my students: don't take 5 classes and go and work after, because when you're gonna finish, you are gonna be a vegetable. right? So try to enjoy life a little bit, don't take too many classes. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot and I enjoy it. I learned how to build, I learned how to solder, I learned how to test, I learned everything on manufacturing. When I graduate, they offer me a job and they ask me, okay, your background is electrical engineering, I know you've been doing production for a lot, what would you like to do? I said, okay, I think I'm gonna go more for mechanical part or manufacturing because I really like to build stuff. Fair enough, I did it for a couple of years, few years. I got my grad school as well done, and I was 29 when I went to my parents and I told them, I'm going to America. My mother told me, you are nuts. Talk to your father, you don't go anywhere. I'm like, no, I'm going to America. So I was lucky that I worked for an American company back in Romania, and I got a great opportunity to move here to experience, to kind of look for that American dream. Everybody, wants it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go. I know I had $1,000 in my pocket, one suitcase, and of course I lied to my parents, saying that I'm going for 6 months, war-related thing, but I knew I'm not coming back. So don't lie to your parents. Please don't do that. The reason why, my mother was very worried, right? So here I am, single, 29, going to America. So everybody was telling me that I'm crazy, and I know, the gentleman over there said the same thing. What you're gonna do? You go to America, 29. You're single woman, you're gonna wash dishes, you know that? I said, yeah, I will wash dishes. You are gonna work in restaurant cleaning toilet. Yeah, I got that too, right? So fair enough, I arrived, I did it. I wash dishes, I clean toilets, I waitresses, and I make good money. I did what I need to do, and in the meanwhile I was looking for jobs, right? I had a goal, and this is my talk to everyone. I have a goal. I am a good engineer, I think. I know what I want. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna make myself. If I can make it, I'm coming back home. But I give myself 6 months. So I found a job in Lowell. So I found a small company in Lowell. I interviewed different places. It took me like 3 months to find a job. And I found a place in Lowell who gave me a chance, an opportunity, and I'm going to remember all my life. I went there and I said, listen, this is who I am, this is what I can do for you. Please give me a chance to prove that I can do a good job. And they did. They hired me, I was a product engineer. They paid me, and I remember coming from Romania, an ex-communist country, I was making 20 years ago, when I left, $450 a month, right? Coming to the United States, and in Lowell, they offered me, I believe I was making $47,000 a year. Doing my math was coming, oh my gosh, so much money. When they asked me, how much money did you make before? I said, $450 a week, right? I'm like, no, sir, a month. He couldn't believe. He called 3 more people to see my paycheck for $450 a month. So it was a funny story. They look at me like I'm coming, from a different planet. But it's true. I was coming from a different planet, right? So I work, different story. So I work hard, and I didn't have any family. And I said, you know what I'm going to do in my free time? Company, everybody goes home at 5. What I'm going to do? I live in Lowell. What I'm going to do? I got myself and I say, you know what? I'm looking to improve my skills. I'm looking to learn something. What is missing from me to get better? I had a goal. And I say, you know what? I'm going to go to school. And I'm going to go and I ask around, and they recommend me to go to Middlesex to take English courses. I said, I know my English is no good. I know I can do better. I wanted to learn more. So I came to Middlesex in Lowell. This was almost 17 years ago when I enrolled. And I did all those English as a second language, Composition 1. You guys like Composition 1, Composition 2, all the fun stuff, right? And I learned a lot. And I made good friends And I love school. I did realize, oh my God, they've been good to me. I finished up all my English courses. And one day, one professor came to me and he asked me if I want a job. I said, a job? I already have a job. I'm working in Lowell, I'm a product engineer, I love what they do. What exactly I can do for you? It's like, well, we do have an open position in Middlesex and Lowell as a computer application instructor. I don't know if you guys, if you are familiar with CAP 101. And I said, but I've never been a teacher. I don't know exactly if I'm going to be good at. Let me try. And the lady said, hey, I've been observing you. You've been, working with the student, with the classmates, work on a project. How about try? And I tried and I loved it. Here I am, 15 years later, I'm still teaching computer application for Middlesex because they've been good to me and I love to get back to Middlesex. And in the meanwhile, I became an adjunct professor, teaching for engineering department with Professor Chris and Professor Angela, and now with Professor Cindy. We are teaching engineering courses, and we work in developing even more, and I teach manufacturing. So the reason why, and everybody's asking me, are you nuts? You work 2 full-time jobs pretty much. I do. But what I do, I love what I do because I enjoy it. Now, what do I do for full-time job on the other job? I'm a process engineer working for a defense company. Before the panel started, someone asked me pretty much if I build weapons. I don't call them weapons. At BAE, I work for BAE System, it's a defense company. I don't call them weapons. In BAE, we strongly believe we build products that save people's lives. We strongly believe that we protect those who protect us. One of my projects I'm working on for BAE is I'm working for fighter jets, F-35 and F-22s, if you guys are familiar with military airplanes. Yeah, do I build weapons? No, I don't. No, I don't. I build products that protect people, our military. So I've been BAE for 11 years. I enjoy what I do. I do a lot of training, mentoring new generation of engineering. After I left Lowell, company in Lowell, and this is how I got in defense company. Back then, everybody was telling me, and I think it was a trend, everybody wanted Raytheon, everybody wanted BAE, Lockheed Martin, and I couldn't understand what they mean by that. I said, what you guys are dreaming about? He said, oh, everybody here wants those jobs. 2006, 2007, 2010, everybody wanted defense. And I asked him, what is the requirement to get a job in defense? He said, well, you gotta be good at what you do and you gotta be a US citizen. I'm like, okay, this is my next goal. I will become a US citizen in a couple of years and I'm gonna apply actually I applied to Raytheon. So I've been doing, I would say, for the last 15 years, I'm working on defense side. I did Raytheon. Did I build weapons in Raytheon? No. I build products to protect us. You got that? Right? Please don't ask me again if I build weapons. How many people from here working for BAE? How many? Let me see. Who do I have? Okay, one person, okay, I can recognize more. 2, 3, 4. Right, you guys are building weapons? No. Maybe. BA is a great company. I love what I do for work. It's very inspiring. They've been good to us. I'm very happy to see that we do have a great partnership with Middlesex, and some of the students here are working with me. They are in drafting department. I think overall from Middlesex, we have like 20 plus students came to us, so it's pretty good. I'm 20 years now in the United States, and looking from what I came 20 years ago with $1,000 and, try to make it to America, and where I am at this point, I'm pretty satisfied what I accomplished. It wasn't easy. Every 5, 6 years, I wanted to change jobs because I wanted to develop myself. I worked even for School for the Blind, Perkins. I built braillers, and I love that job very much too. And every single job I had was something to learn more, to get me, where I wanted to be. My goal would be to be a chief engineer between a couple of years, and I'm working very strong to achieve that. It's great to be in this, industry, and it's not easy. It wasn't easy these 20 years when, people asking you, okay, you are a woman in engineering. When I went to school 20 plus years ago, there were 120 guys and 6 girls. It was a very competitive back then. And even though I wasn't intimidated by that, I know what I want to do, I know it's not easy, I know I have to work hard. And this is when every time I change career or jobs, and I have to look back to say what else I can do, what else I can learn to be a better me, to get me where I wanted to be, right? So if you think that someone gave it to me a job, no, I knocked to the door when I came, I knocked to the door, I put myself in school, I worked really hard to be where I am. And this is what I tell to everyone, it's like, it's not easy, especially if English is a second language for you. I know so many students ask me through my 15 years career with BAE, how do I, pass that, and how people look at me when I'm in the meetings. And I talk to so many, through my job and military and stuff. It's like, I don't look like this is gonna hold me back. I will always have an accent because, I moved here when I was 29. But this is who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. I am who I am, and I know what I can do, I'm capable to do. And I wanted to do more. And look it up through my, my work, what I do for work. I'm one of the strongest engineers between my departments, and I'm not shy to say that. And it's just, I think, the fact that I'm always looking to learn, I don't take for an answer. I'm very stubborn. You guys are stubborn as well? You are, right. A little bit, but work hard and try to do things, and don't take, if you feel like you don't know if the job, and engineering is very challenging. I had people come to me and say, okay, I can't do this, I can't, it's too hard, it's too complicated, it's too, even when my students come to me, talk to me about the course material, you've got to put the time into it, you've got to study, you've got to push yourself. Don't give up. Don't give up on everything you wanted to do. And it's like, if you have that passion for engineering. Engineering is a great field. Right now we are looking to hire within my department 3 engineers, and we cannot find the people. So let me know if you're looking for a job. So it's pretty intense, pretty good. Competition is right there. We have so many competitors. Raytheon is hiring, Draper in Cambridge is hiring. So we got some competitions, right? So, but just push yourself and try to figure out and try to see and be honest with yourself. What else do you need to get you better? What else do you need to get you where you want it to be? And, try hard and discipline. This is what he got me through all these years with no family around. And I remember my mother was crying and begging me to go home. And it's like, you can't stay. I'm a mom. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to prove it to you. And I did. And it wasn't easy at all. I have to admit it, but I stayed focused on everything I did. And Middlesex was very good to me, and it's like, they were my home for a couple of years, and I learned so much, and when I was a student, and now coming back and give them, as an instructor, and I really love what I do. And this is my story of my 20 years to America.
Hi everyone, my name is Ezra. I'm a mechanical engineer. I work at South O'Brien right now. I'm also MCC alumni. I graduated from MCC in 2022 and then transferred to UMass Lowell and graduated from UMass Lowell in May 2024. So I'm also pretty recent in the industry. When I graduated, I started in the utility distribution sector. I did not very much like it, so now I switched to working in the built environment. My current role, I do a lot of HVAC design, projects working on decarbonization projects, optimizing building systems. So that's currently what I do. But my background, I'm actually originally from Sudan. I did not grow up here, and I remember my first semester here at MCC, January 2020, I took a lot of English classes because, again, I do not speak the language well, you know, like a lot of people here. So, yeah, I took all these, you know, ESL, all these classes, and public speaking helped me, you know, to speak English, I guess, better. And that was during the pandemic, so I would say the first 2 years here at MCC were very hard. Like, I think that was like the most challenging time I had. And again, like, you come to a new country, new continent, new language, you're trying to adjust to the environment and also trying to learn, develop yourself. So I find myself like struggling in some classes, even though I was smart. I'm still smart, but
She was my student.
yeah, I was. So I found myself struggling, like, you know yourself your entire life that, oh, I'm like smart, I did good before, and then you find yourself actually really struggling. So, but I kept going, and I did mechanical engineering. And the reason why I picked mechanical engineering, growing up, I love math and science. And in high school, I really loved solving math and physics problems. So I was like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go do engineering. What engineering? I did not have something specific, actually. And I picked mechanical again because it's broad. Because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find myself somewhere, actually. And I actually started college back home, but then in Africa, there's not much of like political instability in the country. So that's when I decided to come to the US when I was 19 to start again from the beginning, even though I finished 1 year and a half in university back then. So again, yeah, going through the pandemic and the struggle of adjusting here was really hard, but I kept pushing. A lot of some classes I didn't even like, but I kept pushing and I got even A's, you know, in these classes, and some classes like B+. But yeah.
She got the B- in my class.
Yeah, her class was one of the hardest classes. And you know what? Like that first job I got right after college, I had to do drafting, and I hated it. I have to say, it was not my thing. Yeah, but so yeah, going back to mechanical engineering. So when I was here at Middlesex, I did 2 years, and then when I transferred to UMass Law, I did 2 years there too. And I would say the first 2 years was more of like adjusting. The second 2 years in UMass Law, that's when I actually started exploring more of like the engineering, what I want to do. And now that I actually know, I know the country, I know the language, I have confidence, you know, now it's time for me to explore. So when I got to UMass Law, I started, okay, what was I gonna do? When I was at Middlesex, I was interested in aerospace with Chris here. We had the model aviation club. So I was like, yeah, you know, aerospace, that's what I want to do. So I joined the rocketry club at UML, and I even built a small rocket, you know, the level 1 rocket. And yeah, I enjoyed that, but I didn't really find myself in there. So I was okay, what's next? and then I started progressing in my classes, and then I took thermodynamics and then fluid mechanics, and I found myself really liking these classes. And oddly, like my other classmates, they used to hate these classes, or at least struggling with them. Like I found myself getting hundreds in these classes. Like, okay, so maybe I have a thing for it. So I just started really throwing myself in my books and talking to professors. And I decided, because I really love fluid mechanics, I decided to join an energy lab at UMass Law. I work with a professor who's working on biofuels, alternative fuels too. So that was one thing. And then I joined other clubs when I pivoted from the Rocket League club, I tried to join, what else did I do? Forgot, but yeah, I tried just to see what other clubs out there. And I leaned into more into research, so like work in that energy laboratory research, and then I wanted to do something different. You know, as a woman in engineering, I used to go to the classroom and I'm the only woman in, you know, or like maybe 2 or 3 women in that classroom. So I was kind of interested in just knowing like, what do actually women go through in engineering? So I found a professor at the biomedical engineering department who's doing kind of like research in education, engineering education. So I went there and I applied for a fellowship. I did a research for investigating the lived experience of women pursuing engineering in my home country. Because I was like, okay, you know what? Why did I leave my home country? And why I still kept pushing engineering? So that was like a different avenue. So again, at UMass I really tried to explore doing different things. I also did competitions when I was at UMass. I did a competition at Lockheed Martin. What was it? Debating. It was a debate, basically competition for a hypothetical engineering ethics in engineering case. So I learned a lot from that actually competition, and then I was interested in wind energy. Found myself, okay, you know what? Let me try wind energy. So I went and I took a class for wind energy. And I liked it. I liked it very much, actually. And I did a competition, the U.S. Collegiate Wind Competition, hosted by M. Earl and the Department of Energy. And I would say we did good. That was my capstone project. So yeah, again, at UMass Lowell, I explored, tried so many different things, did qualitative research, quantitative research, tried to find what I really like, you know, and again, as an engineer, I just like solving problems. So I just, and then throughout, I think my last 2 years, again, going back to, I really like fluid dynamics, I like thermofluid application, and these classes, I found myself in them, so I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go for the energy industry. So what in the energy industry I want to do, I didn't know. And I have to mention that I did not do an internship while I was in college. I did a lot of projects, I did research, so I didn't do internships. So when I graduated, my first job experience this was like my introduction to work. So I started the utility distribution. I had to do a lot of AutoCAD drafting and I did not like it. Yes. I really did not like it. So I found myself a little bit struggling in that job. And then I had to switch to now working in the built environment, doing HVAC design. But ever since I graduated, I think the other thing I found too is I started doing, what do I say? I started trying to learn about business too, you know, as an engineer. I'm like, okay, so I'm an engineer, but I also want to know what's out there. So now, at least at my current job, I am trying to learn some business development that my company is doing. So I started going to a lot of networking events, other industries, see what's out there. Our industry called the AEC industry, Architectural, Engineering, and Construction. And I enjoyed really just talking to people, see what other people are doing, their projects, and all of that. So yeah, I would say, I think the other, something else also I've done throughout the last year is working with the startups. Like I really enjoy the process, you know, of like early stage startups, what they're doing. And I found myself trying to help them tell the story of the technology, what they're doing. So that's part of also me being a content creator. So just again, I'm really trying so many different things. I'm not trying to box myself in one thing, trying to explore as much as I can. And yeah, I guess my full-time job, I do the mechanical engineering, and then outside of work, I try to do content creation and storytelling and engineering. So yeah, that's basically where I am today. Yeah.
I'm so impressed with all of you. It's very obvious that I'm something. But actually, I'm going to stand up here because I wrote just a couple of bullets because I love my job so much. If I start, I just keep going. So now I'm gonna keep myself a little focused on what I do. So I guess overall, first I want to say I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see all of you here. And what I see are all these young faces, the next generation of people who want to get out there and use their amazing talents for good. And so it's really great to see that. And I'm so impressed by this panel, how we're all eager to share what we do and how much we love it. So my name is Gloria Ann Niebuhr. I work in aircraft certification at the Federal Aviation Administration. And so we work on basically, I grant the approval for large transport airplanes and engines. And that's what we do. So I started at Northeastern University. I went to Northeastern a long time ago. And I started with MECE, so mechanical engineering, and I started really enjoying the thermodynamics, and I always wanted to be a pilot since I was probably 10. So since I knew I wanted to fly, aviation had to be a part of my life. So I guess like many of you, I was good at math and science and decided that's the direction that I need to go. So just so you know, how you do now really does make a difference in the future for jobs. I'm also a hiring manager. You're totally right. People are hiring, but your transcripts, literally in a federal job, even if it's 30 years old, they want to see them. So it's just FYI. Yeah. So my career path started when I was at Northeastern. I started working at GE Aircraft Engines in Lynn, Massachusetts. And so working there, I was doing CAD database programming and then testing the part. And a funny story is, a funny story was there I was, and my programming was sharp and went through, was going fast, and so I started speeding up the machine. It's like, I gotta test. Yeah, no, I'll fix this, and I'll speed up the machine. And then I broke the machine. At least it's a major part of it. And that part cost more than I would have needed at the whole co-op. And so I felt, oh my gosh, are they gonna fire me? But they didn't. I guess this happens, and it's part of the whole thing. So the point is, it's okay to make mistakes. And that's huge about engineering, is that go out there and try what you can. Okay, I got a little. But it's okay to make mistakes, and I think that's a really important message to give. So then afterwards, I was working at GE, and then I was working at the Federal Aviation Administration. And I started in engine certification, and we worked on large engines, turboshaft, turboprops, and turbine engines. We did engines for many, many years. It was excellent. Then in engines, we worked on certification as well as accident investigations and then also inspections, and then I moved on to airports, which was kind of the opposite of aircraft certification. So working in airports, that was a different spin, but I guess like many people, you just want to keep learning. So I wanted to learn what's a different part of the FAA. And there, so in engines and in airplanes, we put out the design changes and mandate them into rules. But we really don't care about how much it costs, it just has to be safe. Whereas on the airport side, the FAA has the money, and the airports come to them they're asking for improvements, and it's up to the FAA to grant different items. But it got a little too political for me, so I backed off of that one. But I guess accident investigations was a big part of my life for a while, and that was exciting because it was scary, it was sad, but also inspiring because of some of the accidents that occurred. And so it inspired me, which goes back to why I started going into airplane safety. In 1990, I was just a sophomore in college, and there was a horrible airplane accident, and it was the Avianca crash, and it crashed over Long Island. I was in New York at the time. And when it crashed, I'm only a student, and I could not get enough information. I had to understand. I had to understand the what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how could it have been fixed? How could it have been prevented? And I was just drawn to this. I couldn't stop reading about it. Maybe that happens to some of you, maybe doesn't, but when there's something that I'm doing this on my free time, I knew that my life had to be about airplane safety. So it's also very interesting because then at the FAA, what we do as engineers, then we'll take it, we'll go to the accident sites and we'll take the major parts out and bring them back to the shop and effectively do reverse engineering, which is fascinating because reverse engineering, we're sitting there from this big mess of parts and then finding the tiny inclusion in a piece of metal that was made like 10 years ago. And with the striation counts, it's kind of like looking at a tree where you can figure out how many years it is. You look at that on metals, and so I love metals, and that's fascinating. And so then you find out what the problem is. Then I moved into the part of the FAA where you take that information from the accidents, and then you work with the manufacturers to come up with a new fix, and then to test that fix. And to test that fix, so much so where you throw in bird ingestions or you're putting explosives on fan blades and then watching this gigantic 12-foot diameter engine, effectively try to stay on the mounts. So it's fascinating, I love this part, but then even that, I wanted to go further and think, all right, well, I need to get a certification because what I just inspected and fixed and changed, then who said that that was okay to fly in the first place? And so I got into certification, and it's the regulations. And then I started working with the regulations and enforcing the regulations that already existed. And from there, I saw, well, these are inadequate. They're way too, they're outdated. So I went to go work into standards. So then I worked in the standards and policy of the regulations to help come up with new rules. And then right now I'm in the large transport certification, and they kind of moved me over there. After the 737 MAX, they took the engine group to put management in, and so we're working on difficult things with Boeing and Airbus right now. But some of the most amazing things, and I was talking to Chris to see if I could show you stuff. And here we are all talking and we're sharing our experience, but what I really wanted to do was show you pictures and videos of the cool stuff that we have going on. But I can just try to explain some of it. And some of the items were, or that's new, because you see the airplanes up there, is electric airplanes, and they're starting right now for the smaller airplanes. And the smaller items are single engines, or they're trying to put a lot of UAVs and the hybrids, because we're not going to have an electric large transport aircraft, but there will be hybrids. And the next thing that's coming is hydrogen. So that's fascinating. And so they're talking about the splitting of the water, how we're going to change the whole infrastructure to allow for hydrogen powered airplanes in the future. But it's coming. So I think they're talking something like 2035 is around that time frame, which is all when you guys will be deep in this stuff. And it's fascinating and fun. So anyway, so let me see. I kind of talked about that. So after when I was in Northeastern, I started off as civil engineering, and then when I started getting into all of Avianca and I wanted to work with airplanes, they pushed me in the direction of mechanical with a minor in aero. And then after that, I graduated. I wanted to be done with school. I just wanted to be done. I wanted to be done with school, so I wanted to keep working. And then I would have gone for material science, and I knew I had to go for a master's, but I would have gone for material science because it's fascinating and fun and interesting. But I paid for everything myself. I had three jobs through college, and just trying to raise a family. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay for a master's. So I think, and I looked at the salaries, and I realized, okay, you're probably going to make more if I get an MBA. And And if I get an MBA with an engineering degree, then I could probably pay for the MBA that I just, I just made. So that's what I did. I got an MBA, and it did help me move up into management and has given me, I don't know, a fresh ticket to be able to oversee so many other avenues of the FAA. So I've been in the FAA for many, many years. I love what I do. I'm struggling with some manufacturers right now, but overall, I'm just really happy to share that with you. We are hiring. I was just sharing this with Kevin that last night I figured out how to do that electronic QR code business card thing. So, so we are hiring. If you're interested, we do hire right out of college. And you know, this is the broad group from mechanical so electrical and technology and different things. So anyway, there's a lot out there, and I had him, that's really just let it go. But I will send them to you if you're interested. The FAA has lots of things to do. And, so thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. So now we're going to go with the Q&A. So you can direct your question to one of the panelists, or you can just ask the question to the whole panelist group, and then you guys can pass the microphone along. So who wants to go first?
Hi. So with many of you either working for the government or working with companies that are very intertwined with the government, how do politics intertwine with jobs and your decisions to make it to go for a certain job?
Politics? Okay, yes. So politics, it is very difficult. So right now, our current administration is saying it's a 10-to-1 rule on regulations, and so meaning that for any new rule to come out, we need to get rid of 10, and that's not really happening. And so because we have to make the safety idea and the whole point, so it's a lot more justification. Politics also is after the 737 MAX came out. The congressionals came out. So these are now congressmen who are getting information from the public, and then they would say, hey, you know, it looks like the FAAs are doing what we want them to do because such and such happened, so we want you to make sure you implement all of this. And every single item, there are hundreds of items, and each item needed to be addressed. Half of them were already implemented. And so we would let them know that, and they'd say, no, if it was implemented, there would be a crash. And so the point is, the people who did not have the experience coming through the public, or going through congressionals, so we spend so much time answering questions that effectively have already been answered, and taking away the time to be able to work on the critical few. So it becomes very difficult, but then we dig into that critical few and push forward because it's important, and that's what we do. So that's a little bit of my thought.
So I interact periodically with farmers, which is a very different political stance than I have myself. So I think there's also an art to interacting with people from a variety of backgrounds to begin with, and being able to just set certain topics off the table to kind of be able to show up in your position as you have to, and being able to find kind of common ground and talking about, you know, well, we all want biofuels to succeed, and you want to have a market for your soybean plants to go into, and we want to be able to just work together and not be at like a conflict when you're really just looking for the same thing and trying to move the industry forward. So I think that that's also kind of a skill that is kind of necessary in most positions, probably, regardless of what you're doing.
I'm not a good politician. I'm very straightforward. I struggle, honestly. As my students knows me as well, and in the work I'm the same. I'm straightforward. You want my opinion, I'm gonna let you know my opinion. So many times, when they ask me to give my opinion about something, I ask them if they want to know the real story or they want me to be politician. Right, so it's not easy. You deal every day with politics in companies, and sometimes you just have to ignore and try to find a way to, or not to get involved. Every time, they ask me to go in the meetings and I know what it's all about it and all the politics behind, I try not to. Even they call me and they ask me, we are gonna give you free food, we are gonna give you tickets to Red Sox, we are gonna give you whatever you want to give me, I'm just not gonna go. So it's difficult. For me it's difficult, and I'm honest because I cannot play, I'm straightforward, and you want my opinion, I'm gonna let you know. And honestly, it doesn't go well all the time. I get myself in trouble. And yes, my boss is putting me in a corner and he gave me a speech and they sent me to different courses to kind of polish myself, to learn how to be a politician. Does it work? No, it doesn't. So I struggle myself.
Any more questions?
Hi, so you guys all have such incredible stories, and it seems like you guys are all continuously learning and kind of trying to improve yourself. So if you were a young college student and you were trying to find a career path after college, because I'm also doing mechanical engineering, which is very broad, because I don't really know what I want to do, what would you tell yourself if you could look back in time?
I can take this. If I could go back in time, I would get myself some internship experience. I would try more, do more side projects, also keep up with the industry. I know when you're in college, you can just be in that classroom bubble, but and at least that was the case for me, but that industry exposure is very helpful. Yeah, if I would go time, that's what I would do.
So I mentioned that I grew up in India, and when I was growing up, things have changed definitely since then. But when I was growing up, we are a very rigid system in the sense that you had to declare or you had to choose your career pathway in such a way that that would essentially shut off any other paths for you. So for example, if you took math and chemistry and physics in college, in junior college, then you had the engineering pathway open to you. If you took both if you added biology on top, then you would have another path, and there was no going back. So it was really points-based kind of rigid system. So I made essentially one of my major career decisions to move into in engineering at the very mature age of 15. So so I would definitely say that if I could go back, if I had the opportunity, I would definitely keep options open to see what actually, because you are at that point where you're still thinking about, you may be actually in an engineering program right now, but you can still continue to speak with people with different experiences. Today, is an example, but speaking even one-on-one, connecting with them, just learning about what their journey has been like, whether what their work might is like, using some job shadowing opportunities. So those would be the things I would do if I could go back. Fortunately, in my case, as I mentioned earlier, my dad was a civil engineer, and so it was very helpful for me to see all that, and that made complete sense to me. But that said, I believe that, having such a structured pathway from very beginning, if not, could have been something, but that was a structural change that was needed. In most cases, it is, finding out where what you enjoy doing the most. And I think if you kind of double down on that, and then I think the success becomes much more easier.
Yeah, my advice for you is school always has limited time. 2 years, 4 years, even you got a PhD, 7 years. But technology is advancing every day. So at a school, my advice, if I can go back, I have to improve one skill that is so important, is how to learn something new by yourself. Sometimes YouTube said, do it yourself. Now we have to learn it yourself. Because every day, you graduated, let's say 5 years, 10 years. Like me, I graduated more than 30 years. But how do I keep up my skills or knowledge to like a modern knowledge or skills required for the job? I remember the first product I developed when I was in master's degree was a 45 kilowatts motor. But my interest was not for developing a motor. That's why I switched my interest to develop like a microcontroller-based coding, like a PCB developed microcontroller-based system, those things. But also, when I moved to Canada, the second company I worked with was a networking company. They developed all networking protocols, like TCP/IP, SMTP, DHCP, all protocols. Every line code was written by software engineers. Because at that time, there's no like a free stack or like a available stack you can buy. You have to write it by yourself. For me, when I joined the second company, my networking knowledge was zero. But I have to learn while I was working. So that was also when I joined the third company, HVAC company. I didn't know any HVAC before I joined the company or just with the company. So I think obviously I have a hard lesson to force myself to get into the industry I was not familiar with. But for you, I think now when AI technologies, when many other new technologies are advancing every day, I think that the one important skill of everybody is to learn a skill, how to learn it by yourself when you are at school. That is very, very critical. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that whatever you decide right now is going to change in about 3 to 5 years at the very short end of that range. Like, I would not have imagined being in alternative fuels, leaving Merrimack. I didn't even know what that was. Starting in Michigan, I barely knew what that was. I literally found my advisor day one, or just before day one. So you're not actually tied into anything. So just keep an open mind, be willing to learn, and just adapt when you find that you don't like where you're at. And be willing to accept that you don't like it, because you probably won't at some point in your career.
Next question.
Hi, I have a question. So I need advice right now. I'm struggling to see like what field I want to go into. I'm stuck between like mechanical, aerospace, but in high school civil was like really fun. So I just need help like deciding what field to go into. And what's your advice for that?
You said aerospace, so I have to take it. I love aviation. And aerospace is kind of a spin-off of mechanical. I started with civil because I thought I wanted to work on the structure of the airplanes and do structures. And so, but what I've noticed in the field is mechanical can go in almost any direction. If you want to work kind of on the roads, and civil engineering and bridges, that's clearly civil. But if you have an inkling to aerospace, it was my professor who helped guide me in that direction, and it did open up the whole world for me. So, because with mechanical, then you can specialize in different areas. You can get a master's in something if you want to specialize there. So that's my recommendation. And I did also want to at least find to yours what advice, and I have a bunch of kids, and I start with them all the time, which is what do you find yourself reading? You know, what we're looking at or you scrolling through. You know, where do you see yourself? Where stuff pops up all the time, and which ones you click on. And so then, what do you want to learn? And it's what you want to learn that'll help get you where you want to go. That's
I have a question. So I know that most of you women said that it's very challenging, but I want to know what, if anything, what was challenging either throughout college or like in your career was challenging about being a woman in your field. Because I know for me, like high school was really hard because I went to adult school, so I was like the only girl in my shop, and it was very hard to like, I guess, get recognition from my teachers and stuff because I was the only girl in there. So I want to know if it like was challenging for you guys to like get recognized for your work that you did.
So, yes, it's a challenge, but that doesn't mean that you're hindered in any way. And I feel like that's the thing. I think it gives a sense of humility that maybe a man in an engineering space wouldn't have, because you know that you might be overlooked or what you said might not be taken to heart. And so I think that there's kind of a, like, I want to call it like a superpower, where like I was talking with a person that I work with, and they were saying, yeah, you know, sometimes it's really hard to have these people like, you know, like they sometimes just like have an ego. And I'm like, yeah, but when you're a woman in engineering, like if you have too big of an ego, like it's probably not going to go too well, because like your thing might not be attributed to you immediately. So you kind of learn something like that. So it's kind of like a superpower in how I would describe it, but I don't think it's a hindrance. And I think that that's a challenge that you kind of learn early on, is like some of the things to kind of be aware of. But I don't necessarily think that I would define it as something that is stopping anything. I think it also can really help build a community when you find other women in spaces to help just like start you with a community that you can kind of bond with.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. So I will say that, you know, one of the things, so I was one of the 12 students, female students in my class of 60 civil engineering students. So naturally, you know, you tend to sort of flock together with other women students, and those times were also different. So I'm not going to speak really about that experience in general. What I will say though is that some of my mentors who helped me in my early engineering career, including my professors, majority of them have been male. So there are many men who actually take a lot of interest in, I have found that they have supported me, supported my journey, took me on sites which was typically a male dominated sort of area, but I was able to go there. I was sent on individual projects to work on, say, the damage assessment that I mentioned. So I used to go in the residential buildings, knock on doors, and travel, and then take and actually map structural damage in buildings. And so those things were given by my male bosses. And I would say find yourself mentors and supporters who can who support regardless of who they are or their gender is. Some supporters and some mentors who can help you along the way.
I just want to go back to the classroom. You said that being a woman, you're going to see it in the classroom and you're going to see it also when you go out in the industry. When I was in school, I saw it. I saw some of my male classmates that, you know, they might not take you seriously. But in my case, I knew I was so good, so I just honestly didn't care what they thought about, you know. But in the industry, it's big. Honestly, I think having mentors, as she's mentioned, was good. And also when I graduated, I joined this community called Dear Women STEM. So basically I try to find other women engineers who basically are also engineers in the field. And yeah, having that community helped me a lot actually, learning what other women go through. Because yes, you're gonna go through some situations. At my previous job, I remember they did not want me to go to certain sites because I'm a woman. So yeah, you'll see that. Just surround yourself with, and also I found women mentors who basically been in the industry for years and years. So yeah, mentors and community really helps. And take pride, like when you're the only woman walking, like that's the power.
I was just wondering, what would you say is the main difference between an average engineer and a great engineer from your experience?
Wow, that's a good question. Average engineer and great engineers. Right now where I'm working, we do have, we have a department of 20 plus engineers. I would say 50-50, 50 women, 50 men, and I can see we're all different, all 20. I can see the young generation a little bit different, and older generation, and what makes a good versus bad. Every time I looked up, and it's nothing I think about age, and sometimes people say, oh, new generation of engineers, they're more on the phone, they're more distracted, they're more, I can see that, and I have that. But I do have also young engineers, very, very driven and, right there. And when we give promotions and when we give evaluations, we go through 6 months period of evaluation and 1 year. We are not looking based on age or based on who you are, the color or whatever. We're always looking at what you accomplished, what you did, what was your success, projects you were working on. And I know I worked with someone who came, he was very young, and when he was 27, he got promotion like between 3 years, twice, and at 29 he became a director of engineering. And everybody was hating this kid, said he's 29. And I'm 47, and I've been here for 20 plus years. And I said, yeah, but you are not a good engineer. He is a good engineer. And he was like, what do you mean? I know it all. I said, no, you don't. You have, things to improve, and you have to. So my experience, and I see every day, is like, and every time, when I office, it's an open area, and I can see, everybody. I have engineers playing solitaires during the working hours. And I looked her up and I said, why are you playing solitaires? Well, I'm tired of watching, the drawing I have to do. I'm like, what do you mean? This is your job. This is what you're getting paid for. It's like, yeah, but I need to distract myself. I said, distract yourself. How about you go for a little walk? Distract yourself from the screen. But playing solitaire is like, we are doing government jobs. This is 1 second. It's like, everybody can see you. Third, you're going to ask for promotion between 6 months. Do you think you're going to get it? He's like, well, I don't know. I said, you're not going to get it, right? So we do have, unfortunately, and this is when we do evaluation and we look at our good versus bad, because you gotta encourage, and I always encourage, and I don't care if it's a young generation or older generation, who accomplished the most, who has a drive to do projects, who would bring it more to the table, who is more valuable, who is reliable, you have so many things to look, and yeah, we get promotion and we give raises and we say, oh, I got a 3.2% raise and gentleman got 11 or whatever. It's like, well, let me show you how much you accomplish versus solitaire and whatever you play on, So it's company, we do have those evaluations. I do believe it's fair between my department and I think, everybody's in, but you gotta earn it. You can't go to your boss to say, I want to get a promotion because I'm here for 25 years. This is not how you're going to get a promotion, so you got to earn
I think that's an excellent question. I would say when we're hiring is the number one important thing we do, even though we do all that neat stuff, but hiring is number one important. And what we look for is teaming. You have to be able to work well with each other and not steal the spotlight, to really appreciate the other people on your team. And when that's seen, and that when there are problems, that you're not just going up to your boss or to whoever to ask them, hey, I had this problem. It's what do you personally do? Because, there could be lots of siblings. You can sit there and okay, let's figure this out together and understand the personalities of others. So it's almost like just being a good person, meaning if you're engaged in what you're doing, which is kind of what you were saying, is being engaged in what you're doing, being humble enough to want to learn, to always be ready to learn, because as you're saying there, that technology keeps changing. So if you think you're all that, then you're not going to be humble enough to want to learn. And that's really important that they see. So teaming, be humble and want to learn, and be engaged. And I think that's key.
In my career, I have seen so many different engineers, and I would say most you can probably refer as average engineers who fulfill the job duties, which is average. But if you want to call some people great engineer, I would say they have to go beyond that, only fulfilling the job duties. For example, we have a system test engineer. His responsibility is to validate the product manufactured by our external supplier. His job duty is find out from functional-wise, performance-wise, according to our test plan, to provide all this test data. Then send test report to me, ask me to review and approve if this product can be released or not to the US market. My expectation is if this is average engineer, he just do what he supposed to do, just validate those. But sometimes, because different scenarios, limitations of all that conditions, he may not be easy to fulfill all these tests. For example, in the last few days, we have troubles to debug or test one product, which requires our German team to provide their cloud, connect to US cloud, then send command to the equipment in the lab. The lab is connected through a wireless gateway, through Wi-Fi router. So he can easily say, if he only for his average engineer, he said, no, I cannot do it, test failed. But for greater engineer, my expectation is why to fail, which section the test failed. Is between the communication from European cloud to US cloud, or from US cloud to the gateway, or from the gateway to the unit. which section. So if he needed resources, he should ask me to say, I cannot do all, troubleshooting all. I cannot find the root cause, I need additional resource. That will be great engineers, my expectation. For every engineer, he just do the report, say it failed. I cannot perform the command sent from European cloud to the unit. So I just use this very simple example to show the difference. Hope it is clear.
All right, so we're gonna do 2 more questions, and don't worry guys, we're gonna have time also to come here. I just wanna be as respectful as possible with your time, all right?
With engineering being such like a lot of engineers go into already established companies and such, what would your advice be for engineers who are interested in maybe creating their own thing in their own company?
I think networking is one of the most important things you could do in most cases, and that especially. So I think networking to learn from other people about what they've done and how you can kind of get involved and get started in it would be really helpful in that sense.
Just want to add to what you mentioned, networking. If you know that you might want to build something of your own one day, go learn what are the startups of today are doing, like, or even these big companies, how they started, what are the technology, even with the technology. The more exposure you have, I have interest in startups, I'm not gonna lie. I work at a big company, but I'm interested in startups. I go see what's out there. I didn't even know like that. Like for example, I'm interested in climate tech startups. There is a big ecosystem here in Boston that I didn't even know about when I was in college. So just go read about it, network, and see what's out there. You'll find your way.
Well, I'll be quick so we can get to that other question. But I wanted to say that, so I went to engineering for a while, and then when I went for my MBA, it was a whole other world. And I even I realized that the business community thinks totally different than we do. And so I was amazed, and I think they didn't know I was an engineer in the class, and they're talking about, oh yeah, no, we run the world, and then we'll hire our engineers to take care of us. So it was just an interesting perspective. And so going through the business classes, it helped me understand. So an MBA isn't enough to really do everything you need in starting your own company, but then you can do it in a couple of years, and then you can focus on entrepreneurship. And it basically teaches you all the people that you would need to hire in your company. And so otherwise, if an engineer without the business background starts something, that person's going to take it away from you, or could take it away from you without you even realizing it. So there's so many things around it. So I would just say education.
So as a college student, we all know that studying engineering is very hard. And I want to ask, how do you balance school and just life? I find myself kind of like behind my classes a little bit, like with the reading and stuff. So when it comes to trying to learn about other things I'm interested in, it's kind of hard when I'm like, I still need to read like my textbooks and understand what's going on in class before I start getting to what I'm also interested in outside. So I wanted to ask how you guys are able to balance that out in a way, or what your advices are to get through majoring in engineering.
As I mentioned, I worked my entire, grad and undergrad school. Was tough, honestly. I struggled. I took 5 classes, not knowing what I'm going to get myself into, and working full time, nights. It was a struggle, but what kept me going, and the way I came with a system in place, I needed to be organized. And you gotta, people say, you gotta balance life and, work and everything. Honestly, I didn't have a life. in undergrad school. I'm honestly. I made a mistake, and I'm sharing this with all of you and all my students from the class. It's like you gotta get yourself a little time to do it all. Don't get yourself overloaded, and try to get maybe 4 classes or 3 classes a load. Look it up to see what is priority for you. Sometimes I say, okay, do you want to graduate in 2 years, but you want to work full time, you want them to take, you gotta look that up and you gotta do, put it down and what is important for you. If it's important for you to finish up in 2 years associate degree, then stay focused on school and cut less hours at work. But doing full time both is gonna, I don't want to say kill you, but you're gonna become a vegetable when you're gonna graduate. I remember when I finished my undergrad school, everybody was partying left and right. They were going, visiting. They were, what they call, drinking, pretty much. I was exhausted. I couldn't get up from the bed. I stayed there for a couple of weeks. I needed to understand because, all the exams and everything. So try to be, what is important for you, my advice to you, what is important for you to finish up in 2 years or 4 years degree. Look that up to see the load. You want to make sure you maintain that GPA as well. In my case, I needed to maintain a GPA to have a full scholarship, so I couldn't go below B+, so I needed to study really hard. Try to balance. Now, are you going to have a life if you do it both full-time? No, you don't. It's up to you what is important for you, but definitely I would say having good grades and stay focused on school, that is going to open the door for you for the future. Job you all needed because I needed to pay my bills and survive, but I focused more on school and this is what I did the most.
I want to add one little thing is that build the systems that's going to make you successful. For the balance is hard and stuff, but you define your priorities for that semester. And when you study, keep your phone away. I know how. You're going to find yourself actually be able to be productive more if you do that. So yeah, build systems that make you successful.
You don't have to do it all at once, like full-time in any capacity. You can just schedule yourself like 2 hours on a Tuesday afternoon to like search the internet and just kind of see where you end up. And if you don't do it every week, no one's gonna like be very mad at you for not doing that. Like if you have to skip a week because this week you have an exam tomorrow or something. Like I think that there's a way to make the systems work for you while considering your priorities and like what's immediately happening. So I think being flexible also in the systems that you make is really important.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Before we leave, I want to say a few things. So you might ask, how did Professor Algara manage to find all these qualified people? And the answer, especially because I don't work in the industry, my full time is being here with you and getting all these opportunities for you. And the answer is very simple: networking. Obviously you go to your first line of contacts to get as many people as you can get here. But one simple post on LinkedIn will get you places you have no idea. And then people will get excited about the job you're doing and they will want to connect and serve and help the students. I always identify myself as a proud engineering community college professor, especially that community college is what makes me very proud. And you know where that pride comes from? From you, our students. Just to see you here at this late time, just listening to this amazing panel is something that fills all of us up, not only me, your other professors as well. And based on that, I want you to do 3 things. The first one is to take all the pride you get from this panel, this energy, amazing stories, which convey into one thing. They're all engineers, but at some point they were where you are right now, and they all made it through. Use that energy, that motivation, and then use it to push yourself through the end of the semester and also through the end of your career. It doesn't matter if it takes you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What matters is that you get there. Because that will take me to the second thing. In a few years, you will see my post on LinkedIn, and I want you to help me continue guiding the next generation of engineering students as they progress in their own dreams and aspirations. And the last thing I want you to do is to take as much food as you want. If I leave left over, I can get in trouble. So take as much food as you want home, so that way, it will be easier to clean. Thank you very much. Good evening, get home safe, and then come meet our conference.